Welcome to another episode of Don't Call It Small. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. If you don't know me and you have no clue what this podcast is all about, let me share a bit. I'm the CEO of Foreman and Associates, LLC, where we provide consulting, business support, and professional development services. And Don't Call It Small is where we talk all things business, share tips and news that you can use, and highlight the people and the ideas behind the products and services that we buy. To learn more about my company and me, please visit foremanllc.com. Woo! Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today? I have two amazing people sitting right in front of me right now, and I'm so excited. Let me turn down the music. I'm trying to keep myself pumped up. If you listen to, it was episode, 10, 11? It was 10. It's so crazy because this is 26. We're already in our 20s. I introduced you to a gentleman who has a company, and some of you were quite intrigued because you had never heard of the types of services and products that they have. And I wanted to make sure that I could sit down with him. We could break down what they do, what they're all about, and we can actually help to educate, empower, inform people, not just as consumers, but as well as professionals. And I know I shared a lot, but I wanted to be able to break some things down so that you get to understand the person, the man behind the company A2D Incorporated. So without any further delay, I actually have a twofer because I said there's two people sitting in front of me. Well, if you recall, I mentioned a company in episode 24. So she's going to have to give her a shout out in here as well, because if not, it's just going to, we have to. So I have, what episode was that? I'm going to get this exact episode because I want people to then be able to go right to it. It was episode 24. We have Antwon and Monica Alsobrook. And Monica, I'm so excited because that means if I could, I would just do two interviews at one, like split them, but I would just wear the two of you out. So I'm going to have to double back with you, Monica. But we're going to sit down and have a conversation and allow Antwon to clear up, clarify, and make better sense for those of us who are not in his industry, so that we can find ways to be able to support you in your business, open doors of opportunity, because we don't know who we don't know.
Got it.
Until we start having conversation, and then we have those aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Antwon, really quick before, because I'm going to have you share about your business, but I don't know if you had actually listened to episode, I think it was 11. I did one on leadership, and I spoke about a friend and colleague of mine, Steve Woodsmall, who's running for Congress in North Carolina.
Okay.
And one of the issues that he was talking about with his platform is about the rural areas. And of course, I had no clue that North Carolina's, their number one, energy driver is tourism. And so as he was saying, well, we have a rural community that has basically no internet, they can't connect. So how do you bring them into this, this world? And you're talking about trying to boost tourism. You're trying to find ways to bring businesses into North Carolina. Well, if there's no internet for a lot of those people in a lot of those areas, what are you going to do? And so I mentioned your company. I says, wow, I wonder if there's some possibilities, because he starts talking about fiber and everything. And I'm like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's a possibility where there's some kind of, collaboration, some, private partner, relationship. And I mentioned you in that episode. I'll send it to you in case you didn't hear it. Okay. But I want to have you share your story. So For those people that did not get to hear me ramble on and on about you about 10 episodes ago, tell us about your background. We're here in Atlanta. Is this where you're originally from?
Yes, I'm actually from Atlanta.
Okay.
Born and raised. I grew up on the east side in Decatur. Pretty much a normal life. Had my challenges as a youth, but was able to make it out of some bad situations and to become who I am.
Were you a knucklehead?
I was a big knucklehead. I like to say I had one foot on the right path and one foot in the bad path.
Okay.
And at 19, I almost got myself into some very serious trouble where none of this would have been possible. But through the grace of God, I was able to, He blessed me with getting out of that. Let me just say that.
There you go. Well, from hearing your story, and this is what I love about having this podcast, it allows me to give people the opportunity to share their story with other people. I think sometimes when we look at social media, we get so caught up with the image of someone, and then we think that we know people because of these images, and you truly don't. And when we see people that succeed in certain areas of their life, you think that it just came easy. It just happened overnight. I was overnight success. And I'm like, there is no overnight success.
No.
Even lottery winners are not overnight success. Right? And some of the things that we talk about as entrepreneurs, there's this ability to embrace and to push for change, but also to accept failure. And that it helps to just build the character that we have. And your story is very unique because a lot of people would have given up several rounds, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They would have tapped out. Monica, you're a champion. A lot of it's a testament to both of you. It's a testament to the agreement that you had, or the partnership that you had, because as I share this with our audience, it makes me think about certain couples that I know for a fact they would not do they wouldn't be able to, they don't have the stickability, they don't have the glue, they don't have the grit in order to endure and to keep getting back up and keep trying.
Absolutely.
Together.
Absolutely.
So I love giving that little teaser because people go like, what in the world is going on? I want you to go back. What's your career? What is your job title is a CEO. Okay. A CEO of what kind of company?
All right. So my company, A2D, where I'm the founder and the CEO, is the only Black-owned fiber carrier in the U.S. When I say that, a lot of times it doesn't give people a better understanding, but we actually own our own network with communications infrastructure in the ground. We are a Georgia and Alabama certified, we call it competitive local exchange carrier. And we have approximately about 200 or so miles of infrastructure in the ground that we own and operate. In that, the way we can say it, to a 6-year-old, I have my own internet.
Okay. Now, you say fiber in the ground. So many people are just now embracing that they keep thinking that something's actually in a cloud. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to break this down because, a lot of people are like, I'm not putting anything in the cloud and where's it going and how can I get to it? So when you say fiber, there's a certain age group that's thinking about the shredded wheat that I had this morning. Mm-hmm. And then maybe there's a few that have a slight, inkling of understanding of what fiber is. But then when you said in the ground, I'm sure there's going to be people like, well, what do you mean in the ground? Because most people see telephone line, they see stuff above ground going across, and that's what we think about. So break this down. What is fiber exactly besides what I have for breakfast?
Well, the best analogy I can give, I like to tell people in terms of roads and streets. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody knows what an interstate is, mm-hmm. a county road, a city street, and the streets and driveways that you have in your community. Well, in the world of communications, it's different than your standard utility, where like you have one water line, you don't have 3 or 4, you have one electric line, you have one gas line. That's because the utilities are special purpose over that infrastructure. When it comes in roads and streets, you have one road and one driveway where cars come over. In the world of telecom, you have what we call multiple streets, multiple lines, because each provider delivers their services over their infrastructure. In terms of wireless, it's the same way. You have multiple providers using multiple signals in the air to deliver their services. The problem is when you have a provider that only has their infrastructure, they are in control whether they deliver it to you or deliver it to another customer because they don't have to worry about competing. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we said, okay, in order to ensure that everyone has basic access to information and communications, because we feel that, connectivity should be a right, not a privilege. Mm-hmm. It's not a luxury. You can't function today without having some form of connectivity. We had to create a business case where the infrastructure is not controlled by the entity that's delivering services. So we said, okay, instead of there being 3 driveways, let's collapse it and make one that can meet and deliver the needs of multiple services. So you look at us as, hey, we're going to go ahead and build a new interstate all the way to your home. And then we're going to let FedEx, UPS, the United States Post Office, Lyft, anyone that wants to deliver packages can deliver over this infrastructure versus each one of them having their own. Okay. So it's a different approach, but it's all about ensuring that the consumer has the best infrastructure and the ability to have the choices they want versus being forced into only getting what that provider who owns the infrastructure says they can get.
So how did you get involved in this? I know that at 6 years old, you didn't say, this is what I'm going to do. So how did you get into this amazing field?
Now that's a long and complicated story.
We're here. I have my bottle of water. Let's hear it.
All right. So going all the way back, I've always, when I was a kid, I loved drawing cars. I'm fascinated with cars. If you were to look at my computer, the top websites I go to is autospies.com, trying to see what's the latest car that's coming out. So I've always been fascinated with cars. I was also always fascinated with electronics. So my parents would buy me a radio, and within a month I've broken it down, reassembled it, broke it back down again, and so forth. So I've always been a tinkerer. So I felt that, hey, when I grow up one day, I want to design my own car. So that includes both from a drawing standpoint, but also the mechanics of it. Well, of course, life gets in the middle, and the streets, tugged at me a little bit, and I thought I wanted to be a knucklehead. Mm-hmm. But my parents made sure I still went to school, even though it was a junior college and so forth. So after spending a lot of time just wasting time my first couple of years in school at junior college, I finally got myself together and say, okay, I'm going to start taking drafting, which is the basics of doing design, which is learning how to draw. Okay. And that enabled me to get into computer-aided design, which is now I'm able to take my sketches and put it in computers to make blueprints. And I figured, okay, the next part would be, let me now get into mechanical engineering, because I found out most designers of cars come with some form of mechanical engineering background. So that allowed me then to go to Southern Tech University to go become a mechanical engineer. Well, when I got to Southern Tech, I ran into another roadblock, which is they were really grooming the mechanical engineers to be plant engineers at manufacturing facilities or utility process engineers working at wastewater treatment plants. In addition, because I had to pay for college myself, I needed to get a job. So I was able to get a job at a small engineering firm, and I had to work up under professional engineers, helping them design utility infrastructure, so wastewater treatment plants, food processing systems, and all that stuff. So I got caught into an industry that was way far away from what you have at the big three, Ford, GM. I just never could get there. Mm-hmm. So I had to, make turn lemon into lemonades, and I started really figuring out how can I take my ability to draw and design and combine that to come up with a philosophy of design build, and was able to quickly at the small engineering firm rise to a pretty high level, working directly with the president of the company, doing design work. So as time went on, I was going to Southern Tech. I happened to meet a young lady who, got my nose wide open. and within, met her in March of 99. By November 99, we were married. So, so you have that type of situation. So, of course, now life is staring you in the face. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. I don't know how to get into the world of designing cars, but I have this knack when it comes to utility infrastructure design. Well, while I was working with applied engineering science, I was trying to figure out ways that I can make more money while also going to school, and there became this project where Kimberly-Clark Corporation had came to the president and said, hey, look, we have this new manufacturing system that we've built. It's here in Atlanta, but we got to be able to bring all of our technicians from all over the world to come here to learn how to use it. Can you create something, what we call an interactive operations and maintenance manual, to allow us to train our employees remotely so that they can? Now, this is 1999, 2000. Wow. That didn't exist then. So because I was doing design and early 3D animation graphics, I was connected with several other engineers and self-taught myself how to write code. So HTML, JavaScript, the beginnings of what we call Macromedia Flash, where I was able to take a 3D model, animate it, and then combine that with a database to create a completely interactive operation and maintenance manual. And it got so much attention that the company was able to land $1 million contract doing it.
Did you get a bonus?
So, at the time, my wife and I were trying to buy our first house, and we needed to be able to prove that we had better income. Mm-hmm. And I was promised that I was going to get a major raise as a result of closing on this deal, which I had to present to Kimberly-Clark, by the way. Well, I approached her and said, okay, where am I raise at? Well, I got a 50-cent raise.
They didn't lie.
I got a raise, but it was a 50-cent raise. Now, understand, I'm in college, I'm working for an engineering firm, so I'm only making $11 an hour. So a 50-cent raise, $11.50, that's nothing. Yeah. So I had no choice but to put myself on the market, and was quickly able to get a job with CH2M Hill, which is at the time, it was a very large engineering firm. And it was doing design, their forte was doing, multi-$100 million projects for municipalities. So wastewater treatment plants, large facilities and so forth. And I was recruited because I was, the youngest mechanical designer that knew how to do 3D modeling and design at the same time. Mm. So I came into CH2M Hill and quickly rose to the ranks of being one of their premier designers, working up under the professional engineers, and hit a glass ceiling immediately. Mm-hmm. I'm 23 years old, and I'm out designing, people who've been there 19, 20 years. And at that point, Monica and I, we was at the point where we knew that we had to start thinking about the future, having kids and so forth. And I said, okay, I need to work more hours. I need to start figuring out, what my path is going to be, because I'm starting to get a little bit discouraged about going down the path of utility engineering. And besides, we're getting ready to have a child. And it's like, okay, let me take time off of school to really start figuring out where I'm going to be. So around 2001, I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a side business, because I realized that, being in corporate America, you go at their pace. And it just is not going to work for someone that doesn't have a college degree, that is trying to build a home. You got to figure something else out. And of course, I have hustling background, in the streets. So I had to figure something out. And I didn't want to go back to doing illegal activity. So I had to do it the right way. So I created a company by the name of AA Design LLC, which of course Antwon Alsobrook Designs, which was all about doing basically 3 types of services. One, web page development, because again, I taught myself how to do code, with graphics, doing utility infrastructure design for real estate developers, as well as doing working with a partner company that I had linked up with, who had contracts with municipalities that wanted to convert their electrical grid to internet technology. So I started learning how to do design work from the telecom perspective. And I was a good match in that piece because I understood the infrastructure, water, sewer, valves, pumps, and all that stuff. And when I learned about telecom, a router server to me was no different than a pump and a valve. So, and I also realized that to do utility infrastructure like water, sewer, I have to have a professional engineer's license. To do a network and telecom, I don't have to have anything.
Wow. So what's the professional engineer's license? What is it? It's just, what do you have to learn in order for it to prove that you know what you know?
Just be on projects. It's history.
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
And how long is it? What is it required to get this license? Or back then, and they probably enhanced it now.
So professional engineering, you have to get your undergraduate degree. A lot of them will go get their master's, and then they have to take a very rigorous engineering licensing test, along with having they have to be up under an apprenticeship. It can take easily 7 years. It's like becoming a doctor for engineers. And for me, that was well outside of just, my focus. I wanted it now. When I was at CSU Hill, I had a mentor who went to the same type school I went to. And she was a professional engineer. She had a little small corner office. It was up off by Perimeter Mall and overlooking the mall. And I walked in one day. I was like, Francis, you've been here for several years. You got your PE's license. How long do you think it's going to take me to get to your level? She's like, well, based on your career path, your educational path, it'll probably take about 20 years. And I was like, and how much you make a year? About 80,000. It's like 80,000, corner office, 20 years. No.
Yeah. Way no.
I can't. I got to figure something else out. Hence why I started doing the side stuff with AA Design. So in the world, I worked during the day at CSU Hill. And in the evening, I would drive all the way from Perimeter Mall to Noonan, Georgia, every day to link up with this partner company, a mentor down there, where I learned about telecom. Wow. Every day. So that's a darn near hour drive.
I was about to say, I was going to tell you to get some clarity for those that may not know. That's without traffic.
Yes. So, and I was able to do that because I met this individual through another associate. And I was just, at the time, I was eager. I was a sponge. I was trying to learn about business. And I approached him. I was like, hey, it looks like you got your business about yourself. What can I do to learn? He was like, well, look, if you can get yourself down to my office, you can learn whatever you want to learn. Oh, okay. So, Monica, you good? Okay, this is what we're going to do. So I was able to go to his office every day and basically learn as much as I could about telecom, about business, about financials, about how to deal with municipalities, the whole nine. So that was, and my trade-off was, if I learn from you, I would do projects for you basically for free, but I need my company to get credit. So instead of me getting paid, hey, I need my company, AA Design. I'm not going to be an employee of you. My company needs to have a subcontract with your company because I got to build that history. Wow. So my first project that I was able to secure with him, is I did a design for Noonan Utilities, which they had a contract with a hybrid fiber network that they had. They were building the first fiber to the home network in Georgia through that, and I was able to do some of the design for that. So that was my first project. The second project, this is after we had our newborn, our first child. Down in Montego Bay, Jamaica, you had the Jamaican government deregulated telecom and allowed multiple cable companies to get franchises. And this company by the name of Omni Cable wanted to build a new hybrid coaxial network in Montego Bay.
So what does that do?
So it's like Comcast.
Okay.
So you got a coaxial network that you put in basically a satellite farm. You bring down channels over the air as well as digital content, and then you digitize it to push it over a fiber network. So think of the fiber network as the interstate, and then the coaxial network would be the roads and streets that get to your home.
Okay.
All right. So they hadn't done it before, so they brought in the company I was partnered with, plus me, flew us down to Jamaica. I had to take a leave of absence from CH2 Hill, and we spent 2 weeks, all expenses paid, doing design of the network throughout Montego Bay.
Monica, were you on the beach or no? What time of year was this?
This was December.
In December.
Christmas time.
So we did go to the beach.
Yeah, we went to the beach a couple times.
You sat out there and relaxed and said, "Thank goodness I'm not in the cold."
Well, I had a 6-month-old, so
it was a little difficult with that. So
there wasn't that much cuddling up.
No, not at all. But that was my forte into real immersion in telecom, and that's when I realized, okay, there's this whole world over here that I didn't even know.
Okay.
But again, I was still trying to do design work, so I had real estate developers. I was doing design work for utilities. I had, of course, what I was doing for CH2 Hill, and I had a couple of web clients. So, like, at the time, I don't know if you remember, I was one of the first to start doing what we call interactive CD business cards.
Oh, yes!
Yeah. So I was doing
Matter of fact, I still have a few. I had this weird thing in this pension for archiving things.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a couple of those because I'm like, every now and then I love to bring things out. Like I have a two-way pager and one of the old Nokias that I bring out to kind of give people a reminder of how things, the change, and you have to keep going for. So it's, oh my goodness, so really, how is that?
We had basically used a Macromedia flash player. We animated, had the links in it, background information. We had the music timed in. It was like creating a video now.
Gotcha.
But you would code it inside of Flash.
Okay.
And you were able to put an auto run script, and you put the disk into your thing, and it loads up.
Wow.
And it was like an application. So we're selling those like hotcakes. Again, hustle.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep things going. So that was about 2002.
All right.
In 2003, this was after 9/11, there was a big effort to try to figure out how to deal with information sharing amongst police and all that stuff. And the partner I was with, he was former military and dealt with a lot of intelligence from the communications. And we came up with a concept called ARIS, which is Automated Investigative Request Support System. And we were going to basically build this big network to connect all police offices, department, public transportation, all together this big network. And got Dell involved, IBM involved, Kodak, all these big companies. Now understand, again, I'm working at CH2 Hill, driving down to Noonan, we're developing all this stuff. We got it to the point where we were invited up to the U.S. Secret Service to present, not U.S. Marshals, to present this effort. So we had all these people ready to go. And it was like, hey, this is great, but you guys are 15 years ahead of us. We were thinking this was about enhancing radio communications. What we would like for you guys to do, because the solution was basically server stacks that you would place in each one of the jurisdictions that use networks to link them together. It's like, what we need you to do is create a service like LexisNexis and charge us, per month.
What?
Yeah. And we couldn't pivot because our whole model was based on selling a lot of servers and linking them
Wait. They're like, you're way up ahead.
Way.
And,
Way ahead.
I mean, inform me, we still don't have.
That's correct.
And how many years ago was that? That was 2003?
Have you heard of FirstNet?
Yes.
FirstNet is now what we were proposing in 2002.
Is the government ready now?
No. No. Yeah. So that's the level of stuff that I was involved in 2000, early 2000s. Okay? So AA Design, of course, we're starting to do a lot of stuff. Working for Sandstrom Hill. Monica, of course, we had any money, so she decided to become stay at home. So, we're keeping it together. Things are going. She wound up running for office in DeKalb County in 2004. She was almost there. Was able to convince the incumbent not to run because she was that good. But they brought in another person who was able to corral the central part of the county, and there was a third person who was able to dilute the black vote.
Okay.
So she basically lost that, which we're totally thankful that she lost. But so we had all that happen. Well, 2005, the bottom fell out. I started noticing in early 2004, when you work in engineering, it's all about being on projects. So you have to have what we call billable project numbers, billable project time.
Okay.
So it's not you just, you're doing work. You got to be on this project to account for your 40 hours a week. Okay. If you don't, you're billing on overhead, and that's a bad thing.
Yes.
So I started noticing that there were fewer and fewer projects available to jump on and do design work. And I started figuring out, what's going on? Well, as I started figuring out, I started getting assigned to have to travel to different offices like Gainesville, Florida, because there was no more work in Atlanta for me to do. So it really hit to a head in late 2004, where I was approached by my project lead office manager, say, hey, we need you to now go over and work in the construction department, where some of the designs that you put together, we need you to go out in the field and do construction management and inspection support on those designs, which never happens.
Why is that?
Because Sandstrom Mill had an entirely separate construction division. So engineers, you do engineering. Construction, you do construction.
Yeah.
You rarely have an engineer have to go over to do construction.
So why they have you come over?
Because they didn't have anything for me to do.
So they were just trying to find something for you to do.
Right. That's correct. So I wind up having to go out to, at the time, Clayton County was building a massive $100 million wastewater treatment facility. And I had to go out there and basically be one of the construction inspection managers of this large project. Now, it's one thing to design wastewater treatment. It's a whole nother subject to go out there every day in the middle of the summer, having to do construction inspection. So imagine I'm 20, what was that? That puts me on 25, 26?
26.
Yeah, 26, 27. I'm having to oversee construction crews putting in, 60-inch force mains 40 feet in the ground in the middle of an old wastewater treatment plant in the summer when you got West Nile is out.
Oh my goodness.
Dysentery, all this stuff. I'm like, whoa. But I learned a lot when it comes to utility infrastructure construction. How to deal with permitting, how to put stuff in the ground, how, it gave me a real good understanding of operations, maintenance, all that stuff. But the environment, I just didn't want to be there.
So how did you pivot? So when did you pivot?
Well, I was forced to pivot.
Oh.
So while I'm working out in CH2M Hill, out in construction, I'm trying to figure out ways that we can get A2D, AA Design really going. And I realized that AA Design as a name was restrictive.
Why is that?
Because as a name design, that puts you into design. I can't do other stuff. Because they're like, well,
but you're a design company.
Right. So Monica and I decided, hey, look, why don't we take a page out of CH2M Hill book? They have a name. You don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. So let's come up with a name that you define what it is.
And what does it, CH2? Because I've always wondered.
It's the initials of the founders.
Really?
Yeah.
And so many of us are probably like, well, that's chemical and that's hospitality too. You're trying to figure out.
Charles, 2 M's. So it was 2 Charles. So it was like CH. No, sorry. CH2. Yeah. So it was one person named Charles, and it was 2 people with the last name H.
Okay.
And then person with M.
Wow.
And then another person Hill.
There you go.
So I was like, okay, I got A Design.
Yes.
Antwon Alsobrook Design, A2D. Okay. Inc. And then Monica came up with the logo. So now you got a company where the logo itself is the name and the brand.
So Monica, how did you come up with the logo?
You know what? Honestly, I think we're just looking at. I like the CH2M Hill was kind of like a what is the word? Periodic table. Mm-hmm. You think like H2O or something like that. And so basically it was just along the same lines of that. And I thought, okay, you've got 2 A's in your name, so let's double them up and A2D, And so the logo itself looks like a something from a periodic table, basically. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
So instead of doing A squared D, because we did the 2, everybody said A squared. So we brought the 2 down. Made it a subscript, and then A2.
Because I noticed that happens a lot. When people start seeing those 2s, people automatically say, oh, it's squared. Like, no. They're like, well, then you need to put it bold next to it so that I know. But it would make people think that. And I can see having design. I could see people thinking, well, it's a design company. What else could you possibly be? You're designing something. Right.
There you go.
Yeah. But it's also kind of a play on words because A2D is a little bit deeper in that it's actually trifold. So you have the 2 Antwon Alsobrook design, and then you've got analog to digital, which is what the company does.
Okay. And
basically, it's promoting going from an antiquated system to digital technology. And then we just recently discovered this. So we have a son named Dylan, and perhaps one day the company may go from Antwon to Dylan.
Oh, look at that.
So
you didn't even know you were rolling on that one. That was perfect.
Yeah, so all those things basically come linked together. So I made the statement, all hell broke loose in 2000 and so 2000. Well, that was the first time it broke loose. So in 2005, paint a picture. I'm now working out in construction. I'm trying to get business going. Put AA Design to the side. Now I'm pushing A2D forward. I was able to get a couple of smaller consultant projects on the side, and then I get laid off from CH2M Hill.
They couldn't figure out any. They're like, there's no other place for it. We can't put him anywhere else. He can't go into janitorial. We can't. There's nowhere else.
And I'm not being very aggressive.
Yeah, he's not.
I'm like,
he got a taste of entrepreneurialism of what he thought it could be. Yes. He saw the numbers that Eris could make and generate, and he got brand new. He really did. Yeah. And so it was that. It was like, I'm Mr. CEO now, and I'm not going to sit in a trailer or on a golf cart and watch people
out here the dead heat of Georgia summer.
So I'm
25. You know where I'm supposed to be now?
Don't you know who I think I am?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's absolutely correct. So here I am. So when I got laid off, got a severance. Like, okay, cool. I can now really make HUD happen. Crickets. Contracts didn't come, stuff didn't happen, promises didn't keep, things dried up, all these design projects, all that stuff evaporated.
And what was that conversation like at home?
Well, it was, hey, we have faith, let's keep going. And now I'm faced with, okay, now I got to get a job. So now it's that situation of, do I enter back in corporate America or do I continue to walk in faith? And you had this paradox in that both of us was on the same page. And we were like, hey, we're going to have to let's ride this thing out. And you also had the situation where because I didn't have a college degree, it made it that much difficult. And like I said, at the time, I didn't realize that the engineering world was going into a recession way before everybody else knew. So I started seeing it even when I broke down. I was like, okay, let me get a job. I wasn't able to get any opportunities that I felt. So I had to just continue to do the grind and try to find little small ins and out projects as I could. So by January 2006, no income, we lose our first house. And at that point, that was the big test of our relationship because I felt that I failed as a man, as a husband, the whole nine. Monica, she was taking care of your money. So she wasn't bringing in, much income. She was doing what she could, but that was it. So, and our whole marriage could have failed right then and there.
Why didn't it?
It didn't because Monica was like, hey, look, I'm with you regardless if we're in a box or we're in a mansion. There was never a decision.
You hear that, ladies?
And we were close to a box. So.
But it's the reassurance.
Yeah.
So it's the I've spoken about this in different episodes where we talk about being an entrepreneur and you already are in your head a lot. So you already have enough self-talk and self-doubt and all the different things. And if you're spiritual, you start talking about what the enemy is attacking all the time. And the hardest thing when you're an entrepreneur is if you don't have a support system.
Absolutely.
And what you find out is, family and friends could, they love it when you're thriving, but all of a sudden when you don't, I knew it wasn't going to last. And so, it happens, right?
We had a double whammy.
Really?
Well, so number one, let's just paint this bigger picture here. When we got married, on my side, we were the first one out of my mom and dad's side to have a wedding since my parents got married in 73.
Whoa.
Okay?
A big wedding.
A big wedding. You see what I'm saying? So, and then we were the first ones to buy a brand new home. So we had all these check marks as the golden got it together.
And
then we just lost our damn minds trying to...
Right.
Can I make
friends?
Yes.
That's how
everybody thought that we just lost
our minds.
Yes.
There were, we had family members like, Antwon, you must be, some pimp, or you got Monica's struck. What's going on? This doesn't make sense. And all we can do is just come together and say, hey, we're going to get it from all ends.
And you got it from all ends.
We got it from all ends.
So,
and it didn't help that you were young either,
right?
No.
Because at that point you're young and dumb in the minds of a lot.
Young and dumb. So I remember the day they had the foreclosure. They had the sale of our house on the courtroom steps.
You were there?
No,
we
were at home.
Oh,
and we didn't know what was going down, And so we called the mortgage company. It was like. We just found out, that our house was sold today. She's like, well, are you in the home? It was like, yeah. It's like, well, you need to get out. And I'm like, oh.
This is real. This is not play.
Oh.
This is at the time when...
And we didn't have any money to move.
Were really popular. Yeah. We were already upside down. We were paying way too much for the mortgage anyway, especially for the house that we purchased. But
so refinancing was an option, none of that, because they had already done that. We had already did an interest-only loan that would balloon, so it was ballooning.
Oh.
We were foolish
So
to get
it
that
was,
house.
we were already exhausted.
Yes.
And then the house we bought was in a community that it wasn't worth really trying to fight. But the sting of that day of we had to get out, especially we didn't have the money to move. So it was a double whammy. So I had to call my sister who, was able to get a U-Haul for us.
Yeah, so his sister
So
and
we
his
had to
mom was
move
there
that night.
to help.
And you guys were up here now having to pack and shovel and get
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
Moved everything to a storage unit. We had a friend in the community that had some investment property, a condo. She allowed us to move in there. So we stayed in there for about, how long we stayed in there?
About 8 months.
About 8 months. Stayed there as long as we could until we had to move. But
She was like, I need to make money off this investment property.
Right. So that strained the relationship. But in the interim of that happening, I was able to secure a couple of projects with Fulton County doing what we call building commissioning.
All right.
I was also able to secure a contract to design, build a 13,000 square foot at-risk youth facility.
Okay.
Again, from an architectural engineering standpoint, so I had a partner architect. I was doing the mechanical engineering start of it, and we got the contract. The problem was the project was funded by the USDA, which required all of these hoops and hurdles to go through and permitting. So I was thinking that would come through, by mid 2006. It didn't come through. It kept being delayed. So eventually we wound up having to move out of the condo into my mom's house. So we moved into my mom's house, into the basement. Monica now pregnant with our second child, Madison. And so we moved into my mom's house September 2006. And I just have to say this is God's divine, because we moved in, what was it, like the next week?
Yeah, around the next week.
My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And of course, that was devastating, but because we were there, we were able to, Monica was able to help, I was able to help. We were able to, one, not be stressed out because we had a place to stay. We were able to feed, we were able to take care of Monica, but also we were able to take care of my mom and just help take care of the house.
So everyone got to reset.
That's correct.
It
was a level of reset. It was also for me. Remember, I had this level of arrogance about me as well. I'm going to be big, business owner.
Yes.
It was that gut check. So I was able to come to grips with a lot of my adolescent issues, a lot of my, self-esteem issues. I was able to make peace with a lot of stuff because we all go through things as kids and stuff like that, and you don't ever address it. Well, when I moved back home, I was able to kind of just really understand my relationship with my mom, relationship with my dad, understand what made me who I was, and get a level of humility about myself, which helped strengthen our relationship, because what it also did was expose for me how a lot of our tensions as husband and wife was a direct result of tensions that I had with my mom. So you had a situation where we would get into an argument, and it wasn't me arguing with Monica, it was me arguing with my mom.
Yes.
But I didn't realize it until I was able to see it. So I was able to see the interaction between my mom and dad and see the interaction between me and my wife, and I realized, okay, it's 10-year-old Antwon arguing, which allowed us to get to a better place in communication.
And I think that's one of our biggest problems is that I tell people, and I tell my students this, but I tell my clients too, is that we are nothing but oversized children.
Absolutely.
And so we are still carrying around all of the stuff from childhood. And, it's interesting because people always say, oh, you just got to toss it away. It's not. It's embedded. It's hardwired. Right. The thing is that our ability to be able to address and heal. And I think the only times that we do are in those moments. Moments like that where you have no choice because you hit bottom and you're like, well, it's here. And the relationship the two of you have to be able to number one, the patience, because a lot of people, we have a lot of people in this country and around the world who the slightest bit of a hiccup, the family breaks up because the person's like, hey, I didn't sign up for you to be up here to decide you want to be Big Willie, because you're trying to be a billionaire before you're 30. Slow your roll. I'm out. We're up here bringing children in the world, and you're playing around. And interesting enough, although in some ways you got immature, but in other ways so mature, in order to know that other stuff is the superficial. But what you had to then be able to do to come together and to have those mature conversations and to humble yourself, because how many of us, we leave home and you're like, I ain't coming back here. Right. I come to visit, to eat for holidays, but to say that I'm moving back in, and not only that, I'm moving back in with my wife, my child, into the basement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very humbling.
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, a humble pie moment was, when we moved, we had to move some of our stuff into storage. Well, we couldn't afford the storage. And we were too proud to ask for help. So they were going to auction our stuff off. Now, this is all of our stuff. My wife's wedding dress, our appliances, pictures, everything. And so we went up there the day of auction. And we watched them auction our stuff off. It was the worst.
I was pregnant with... we were pregnant with Madison, the second child.
Yeah. And one of the ladies that, a woman, they bought the stuff. She saw us there and she recognized that was our stuff. And she showed a little mercy, a little bit. She gave us our pictures, but kept the frames, of course.
Now, I can relate. I wasn't given the courtesy of knowing. I had all of my stuff in a storage unit, and I'm not sure if it was the owners who did it, but my storage unit supposedly, something happened and it was broken into, whatever. I think honestly, what happened is that, and then so they told me I could come in my storage room and everything I owned. And I would now. The difference is I had a fear of storage because when I was a child, my parents' storage unit, they had back in the day, they had this where they do the whole warehouse and then they would put cages and you would rent. Your storage part would be in individual cages. Well, someone was wise enough to come in and say, wait a minute, we can come in here. All we have to do is break the lock to the warehouse, and then we're just breaking all the extra, locks. Right. We can clean up. Well, a crew came in, cleaned up, and so it was probably more than 20 different storage. And I remember I was little. But all of our stuff was wiped out. So I already have this fear of putting things in storage because of my childhood. And so this second go around as an adult, I at least kept my pictures out.
Things that cannot be replaced.
It can't be replaced. But here's the funny thing. When they were like, oh, we don't know what happened. So there's one box left in storage. I go look in there. It's not even mine. It's from someone else. So what they did was they did a combined auction, or they just came in and said, hey, we're going to take this, because they had seen the things I was putting in, and it never dawned on me. Now I know why a lot of people put stuff in storage, when the sun goes down. But I know the trauma of having everything gone. And you're just like, but to witness it, I never witnessed mine. I just happened to I walked in to look at an empty storage unit with one small little banker's box that wasn't even mine. But I mean, how was so at least the woman was, she gave you she said she put the time to take the pictures out of the frame.
Like I said, that's one of the pictures right there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
She took it out. Some really nice crystal frames we'd gotten for our wedding. my wedding dress. She, let's see, my daughter's first shoes.
She let you have them?
No. She
No.
Only thing we got our mail. We got some paperwork, which again was really stupid to put in storage, and pictures. Everything else,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, just imagine. We had to leave the house that night. So it was just...
you just
and
put
get into
everything
storage.
in. And you don't think about the likelihood of that. Yeah.
And we moved into my mom's house where there's no room. My mom has a relatively small house, so there's no room to put anything. You know, just our clothes. So we didn't think, and then of course that bill has occurred, and we didn't have the money, and it was like, okay, I'm already here with my mom, taxing.
Yeah,
and it was a lot. You know, I think that
we was in depression. We was in
the
depression.
storage was lost before we moved. I believe actually, it's before we moved to your mom's house.
That's right, because
we were in the condo,
and we couldn't pay for that.
We couldn't pay for the condo or the storage. So I mean, I think we also kind of went through we've gone through, and we'll be talking about this, but we've gone through periods of depression and just, you know, I think I was pregnant again with our second child, and I think we just got to, we didn't care. We were just like, you know what, let it go.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I regret that now, but at the end of the day, it is still stuff.
Yeah.
It is still stuff, but there are things that I wish I would have. I could, you know, not to say my girls wouldn't wear the dress, but I could have taken a piece of the dress and put it on theirs. So.
That was the moment of awakening in that all this stuff is immaterial.
Yeah.
As long as I got a wife, my kids, we're together, we're healthy. Everything else doesn't matter. We can always reset.
So with the, I'm gonna do this in two, but I'm gonna do this in two.
If we could talk all day.
No, we're gonna do two today. I'm gonna wrap this one up to then start a part two, because the thing is that the reason why is because these are the stories that so many of us don't get. So we don't get, and we don't get about our pride. I have pride issues.
Yes.
I'm quick, and I know it. And that's the reason why I use this podcast not only to help others, but it's for me too. It's my own therapy in all the ways that my ego, my pride gets in the way. So what I want to be able to do is to now, I'm going to shut this one down so everyone is listening. We're going to pick right back up with part two of this so that we can now continue this conversation.